Now, usually I do not like turn-based RPGs. While there are some exceptions like the Mario and Luigi series, it's a general rule to say that if it's turn-based, I probably will not like it. But what about a Harry Potter RPG? Well, I am a huge Harry Potter fan, so that prospect sounds interesting. Well, back in 2001, EA Games released a few different games related to Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, one of which was on the Game Boy Color, and it was a turn-based RPG. Let's get into it. This time on That Game Review Show, I'm your host, James, and this time we will be taking a look at Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone for the Game Boy Color. So, I played this game a lot back when I was younger. I don't own my original copy of the game anymore. I'm not quite sure what happened to it. I think I might have given it to Kyle at some point. This time, however, I'm playing it on my Retron 5 with a cartridge I bought off of eBay a while back. I do have to admit, being able to play any sort of Game Boy games on my monitor with an SNES controller is really nice. That doesn't really have anything to do with the game though, I just really wanted to bring it up. Despite me playing this when I was really young, I don't hold that much nostalgia for the game. I mean, it's been a really long time since I've gone through it. It's probably been 8 or 9 years or so. The game starts off with a letter from Albus Dumbledore himself. Then we are immediately put into Diagon Alley to get our school supplies. If you're familiar with the Sorcerer's Stone, be it reading the book or watching the movie, you will know the basic plot of the game. Oh, also, don't worry if you see text that says Philosopher's Stone instead of Sorcerers. I prefer Philosopher's Stone since that's the correct concept. The publishers of Philosopher's Stone didn't think that Americans would know what that is, so they changed it to something more mystic sounding over here, hence the name change. I do want to say right here, I will not be nitpicking everything wrong or different about this game compared to the books or the movies. I want this to stand up on its own. Anyways, we get our wand from Ollivanders, then we head into Gringotts to go get our money. Griphook and Hagrid lead us to... Jesus fucking Christ, Harry. Why did you have to fall over there? This place is fucking creepy. Fine, you know what? Fine. We have to make our way through to the vault while fighting as many enemies as we can. We make it to the vault, then buy all of our stuff for school. After we get our stuff and talk to Hagrid, we are immediately taken to platform 9 3/4 to board the Hogwarts Express. Here, we are introduced to Ron and Hermione. Oh. Hello. Once the train reaches Hogsmeade, the first years take the boats to Hogwarts, and on the way we are attacked by a series of bugs, and also the giant squid. Everything in this world wants you dead. I cannot stress that enough. Hagrid then abandons you in the dungeons since Harry really refuses to move of his own accord. He may be a little slow in the head in this game, not gonna lie. Oh, and, you know, the boss of the area is Harry getting attacked by a suit of armor. Hagrid, let's talk real quick. This suit of armor is hitting Harry with a fucking sword. What the fuck, man? Once you get to the castle proper, this will be the backdrop for the rest of the game. The first part of the game is just going to your classes. Well, sort of. The first class you go to is potions. Snape, being the asshole he is, treats Harry like shit. And then, of course, Neville's cauldron explodes, and then he sends Harry to go find the ingredients to help him. Snape, 2 things. 1, you're the potions master. Why do you not have these ingredients? And secondly, the kid's cauldron fucking exploded. You're lucky he didn't die. After finding the ingredients, you're free to visit any of the next classes. Transfiguration involves finding a purple rabbit that was a lit candle for some reason. Charms class is just a game of Simon Says, where you try to lift a feather, then a book, then a stool. And if you mess up on the stool part, you have to do the whole thing again despite the goal being to lift a feather, but you know, that's cool. This part really sucks. Herbology is finding ingredients and grinding levels on the wildlife. Flying class is kinda cool, it's just avoiding obstacles to catch Malfoy. History of magic is pretty interesting. Professor Binns gives you a pass to visit Diagon Alley to get a special Famous Witch and Wizard card. The guy selling the card is kind of a shady looking dude, and he gives you access to his vault in Gringotts to get the card, which happens to be guarded by a giant fucking monster. Defense against the dark arts isn't even a class. Peeves the Poltergeist curses you with the Curse of the Bogies, and you have to find the counter curse in the Muggle Studies classroom, in the fucking TV set. That's fine, makes perfect sense. After the classes, we skip right to Halloween, where the troll attacks the school. Harry, despite Ron being in the same room, goes to fight the troll alone and happens to win. Christmas time comes, and right before Harry and Ron get to open their gifts, Peeves comes in and steals Harry's shit. Harry finds his gifts, and he is given his invisibility cloak, which he then uses to go explore the restricted section of the library. He sets off an alarm and then makes a quick escape, but ends up trapped in a corridor with Snape and Filch. Harry explores and finds a strange mirror, that being the Mirror of Erised, which Dumbledore explains shows one their true desires. Then he quickly sends Harry to bed. Then Easter break. This game really moves through shit pretty fast. Harry, Ron, and Hermione are in the library when Hagrid comes in and mentions something strange about dragons, causing the trio to go visit him. Just in time to witness his dragon, Norbert, hatching from his egg. He sends Harry to go find some chickens for the dragon, which Harry does. This section is kinda weird, since the chickens only did 1 damage to me, and they die instantly with one of my spells. I'd say probably the weirdest part is the fact that it plays the boss fight music during these encounters. And the chickens give you an insane amount of experience, which makes grinding on them very profitable. And the game crashed. Well, I was fairly vigilant with save states and saving the game to the cartridge, so it only lost me an hour or so of play, which, that was a relief. If I had to redo the entire game, I would have been fucking pissed. Ron writes to his brother Charlie, who works with dragons, and then they sent Norbert off to Romania from the top of the astronomy tower. Harry, being the stupid bastard he is, forgets his invisibility cloak on top of the tower, and they immediately get caught by Filch and are given detention. Detention involves exploring the Forbidden Forest with Hagrid and fucking Hagrid, at least walk with me! Here, Harry learns from a centaur that Voldemort wants the Sorcerer's Stone to bring himself back from the brink. Yeah, that's also a thing. The game doesn't make much mention about either up to this point. Harry, Ron, and Hermione take the issue up with McGonagall, who quickly dismisses their concerns about the stone. Since she wouldn't listen, the trio go and save the stone themselves. The lead up to the stone is pretty short, but it's honestly kinda cool. Fluffy is just passed with no concern, he's a cutscene. The Devil's Snare was a pain, but it was killed quickly enough. Flying up to the key for the door was a bit annoying, but altogether not too challenging. The chess pieces were pretty tough, but since they give you enough experience to level up, you don't have to worry about running too low on health. Then, the potions challenge is pretty easy, honestly. It's just figuring out which ingredients go into the potion to get past the flames, which is actually random every time you do it, so you can't just enter the right code every time. Then the final challenge. Professor Quirrell, the defense against the dark arts teacher, wants the stone for his master and attacks Harry for it. He is super strong, but not too bad, especially compared to the final boss. The final boss is Voldemort himself. Well, not himself, considering he's on the back of Quirrell's head, but you get my point. Voldemort is a foe to be feared, doing over 100 points of damage per attack, and has a ton of health. He actually killed me, making me replay the entire trial again, which wasn't too bad. After defeating Voldemort, he lunges after Harry and the screen fades. Harry wakes up in the hospital wing, where he talks to Dumbledore about Voldemort not being dead and how he got the stone. Then the end of term feast. House points are rewarded to Harry, Ron, Hermione, and Neville for the events leading up to the climax. Which actually wasn't enough to win the House Cup. Gryffindor was in 3rd place on this playthrough. I'm not quite sure how to get any more points than I did, but I know it is possible since I remember winning the cup when I was younger. Harry lets his owl, Hedwig, fly away and the credits roll. After you beat the game, actually, you can play through it again in New Game Plus, where you get to keep all of your levels. But your equipment and spells are reset, which is a pain. If that seems like a really short game, well, it was. My playtime was about 8 hours, which was technically higher since the game crashed on me, but that's besides the point. For an RPG, this is a very, very short game. And speaking of the game, let's get into the gameplay. The majority of the game takes place in an overhead view, with Harry walking around and talking to people. The battles, which aren't completely random, appearing as blue clouds of magic, are set to the side with Harry facing his enemies. I say not completely random, as sometimes you can walk into battles before they actually appear, which is annoying. What about characters? Usually RPGs have multiple playable characters, right? Well, no. In this game, you play as Harry and only Harry. While this isn't a huge issue, it causes some battles to last a very long time and can be detriment when fighting against multiple enemies, since they only have one target and you have 3. I believe this is fixed in the sequel, but I'm not quite sure. You get a variety of spells to use, some of which are more useful than others against most enemies. And with the spells, I should talk about the biggest issue with the battles in this game, especially early on. You get one spell that takes no magic points to cast, being Flipendo. It works decently against most enemies, but some will only ever take 1 damage from it. So what's the problem? Well, if you run out of spell points, then you have to use Flipendo against the enemies that are immune to it. So the battles take forever if you can actually win. You do get potions that restore your magic points, but this shouldn't be necessary, especially when you can run out of potions. When you level up, Harry's health and magic points do get restored, which is very nice. And your stats also go up. Pretty standard RPG fare. Except, one of the stats makes no sense to me. There's a magic strength stat, which is pretty self-explanatory. It should make your spells stronger. But then you get an actual strength stat. Harry doesn't do any physical attacks, so having 2 separate strength stats is pretty redundant. I didn't put this in the script. You do get famous witch and wizard cards that you can combine together and burn, and they do various effects. I barely use them in this game. I use them actually pretty much predominantly during the final boss. So, yeah. I think I tried one and it made the enemies, like, super strong. Yeah, that wasn't very good. I do want to point out, this game is super hard if you don't grind for levels. I remember this game being damn near impossible without it growing up. So, quite a few times while leveling, I just spent time to get levels, which probably made this playthrough far less painful than it could have been, so I am grateful for that. Overall, the game is decent. I mean, it's not amazing, which is to be expected, but it works. I think for an RPG on the Game Boy Color, it's probably as good as we could have expected. I had an okay time playing this, since I'm not a huge fan of RPGs, but that could be a mixture of some nostalgia mixed with my absolute love of Harry Potter. If, for whatever reason, you're interested in this game, go ahead and play it. But if you're huge on RPGs and have little interest in the world of Harry Potter, I would probably skip it. So, I know my last video I said I would do Darksiders 3, then put text on screen saying it would probably be Battle Princess Madeline, but I ran into a few issues with both of them. I didn't have Darksiders 3 when I said that, so I didn't really have much of a chance to work on it. And as for Battle Princess Madeline, I was hoping to get my physical copy from Limited Run Games before I started on that, and I am still waiting on it. This is 100% my fault for talking about the games when I had no idea. That's just because I had that script written and recorded quite a while before the video actually came out. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please let us know down below, and drop a like or subscribe if you have not already. Next week, Terrell will be hosting, so come join us then. Also, I am trying to present myself a little differently, a little less excited, and I feel like that makes my voice a little better. So if you agree, also let me know.